A huge massive thank you to my community, because it is because of you guys I've been given this opportunity. I've been contacted by the community manager for this game, RoboCo, and they have given me access to this alpha of the game build. Love it. Let's look at it, let's get into it. You might have seen this game by Khan and Scrapman and a couple of the other guys, but basically it's similar to main assembly, but I personally have found it real easy to get on with. We'll have a look at the first mission. We've just got to deliver a sandwich, you guys know how it is. We'll have a little bit of play and a little bit of fiddle around, and we'll see how we get on. Won't lie, I quite enjoy this game. At the minute it is only an alpha, so there isn't very much content to it right now, but what we do have is ample amount to be quite creative with our builds. As you guys will see, it does have that main assembly feel to it, and if you've played main assembly, you'll understand what I'm saying by that straight away. That doesn't mean that it's trying to be second to main assembly. It doesn't mean like it's trying to be main assembly. It just takes some of the concepts and the way that main assembly does stuff and does it in its own way. I personally find this to be slightly easier. I don't know why. Pretty much similar build system, everything else. Maybe it's because it works on that block grid system where things just make sense to me. I suppose coming from scrap mechanic, everything works in blocks over there, so it is a little bit easier to work things out because of the grid system and the way that you just go around building stuff. For this build, what I decided to do was try and make an elevating platform. I haven't seen many people use the elevator piece that we've got on this build, so I decided I'd try and do it, and that's pretty much the only piece that I'm going to use. So I'm going to build a sort of table surface that we can raise and lower, and we'll also use our elevator piece to make a push rod which will push the sandwich. So the whole idea here is we've got to drive forwards, get underneath that chute. A sandwich will drop onto our platform, which will be able to elevate up and down to get to the height of the table. When we're happy with the height that we're at with the table, then I'm going to use another piece just to kind of use a push rod to push that sandwich off of our platform, hopefully delivering it to the table. So this is the elevated piece that we're going to be using, and I'll talk you through how you go about using this because it might be a little bit tricky to work out. So you see you've got a white bit and a grey bit. Now what you need to do is you need to get a motor and a rod and connect the grey side to that rod. Now the white bit that has the kind of hole in it, that's going to move backwards and forwards. So how do I work this out? Basically, you connect a motor to the grey bit and it spins a rod, and then the rod going through the white side will move forwards or backwards depending on how you got it set up. So one thing about this game that is a little bit off is how you rotate things around and getting the right piece to line up where you want it. But you know, a little bit of trial and error and a little bit of effort, you do get there. But this is what I'm on about. So the motor is connected up to the grey piece, and then this rod that goes in the white piece will be the bit that moves. This is just kind of setting up to show you guys how it moves. So we're just going to run through like setting it up forwards and backwards, just run off a keybind, and as you'll see, so you see the rod moving through, but obviously it's flipping around because it's kind of pushing itself around as well. So that is basically how it works, and this is what we're going to be using to make our platform go up and down that our sandwich is going to be on. So what we're looking at doing is running in 2 bits of rod here each side, so this will enable us to move our platform up and down. I picked 2 because I like to keep it kind of solid. I'm not too sure I'll be able to do that with just 1. I think we'd risk it flipping over. So we'll have these 2 rods on and we'll kind of raise them up as high as we can. So hopefully when we get to maximum height, we will be as high as we need to be either level with the table or just kind of like 1 block or something just above the table. So this is where we'll be putting our elevator platform things on here, and then we'll hook these up to a motor, and then what we'll do is we'll run the platform over the top of all of this so it's hidden underneath. That way we've got a nice flat base for the sandwich to land on. We'll be able to lift it up, and then we'll make another elevator contraption, and instead of it going up and down, it'll kind of go forwards and backwards, and this will let us use it as a push rod to shove that sandwich onto the table where it needs to be. Something else that I do like about this game, we can sort of change things up on the fly. I wanted to kind of put this in the middle. Didn't work, but I can squeeze the base in, and then I could just move the wheels over, but instead on this one I just deleted them and then re-added them in. But it would have been just as easy just to slide them back across one square and put them back to connected to the platform. It's really easy to modify your builds in the axis on this because of those little kind of click and drag elements that we've got, and because it all works in like a block system. It's got that similar build system to Scrap Mechanic, something that I can get on board with. So this is what I'm going to be doing for the push rod. I'm going to be putting this elevator piece here, and I'm going to line it up down the middle, and I'm going to have a rod that will go in, and it'll put a flat bar across the end, and it'll give us a nice old shove to push anything that's on the top of this off. So this right here is what I'm saying about a little push plate, and what this is going to be able to do is move backwards and forwards on that rod, So it'll come all the way back, so it'll give us a nice flat platform. And then finally, sandwich drops on top, and it means that we can wind that rod forwards, and it'll just be a nice little shove. And off the sandwich should fall, hopefully, and away we go. It's just a case of key binding everything up, which in all honesty is quite easy here. You can either select your motor on your actual build itself, and it highlights it in your panel, and you've got options already, move it forwards, move it backwards, etc. Or you could just select, if you know which motor you are, you can just select it from the actual options panel itself. So I found this really helpful, because it's a case of you don't need to understand which motor's which motor when you can just click it on your build. The one thing that did confuse me though is, if you notice, those arrows were both spinning allegedly in the same direction, so forwards should have been up and backwards should have been down kind of thing, but in testing it didn't work. And as you can see from this, clearly both arrows are spinning in the same direction, so I just couldn't understand what the problem was. So it's a little bit of a hiccup potentially, but it is what it is. I guess it's also to do with how it's positioned. One's kind of positioned to the left, one's kind of positioned to the right. I don't know. Anyway, the easy solution was to take the platform off and basically just look at how the motors were working without anything on. This way they can move independently and see what the real issue is. Turns out one of the big problems was I didn't actually have a rod connecting the motor to the elevator port in the first place. Once we got that in, we did notice that the motor was spinning the wrong direction. The best thing about this is so easy to flip around. Just go in the options, click flip, bosh, sorted. Now we can just lay the platform back on top, and that has been checked off as being a success. This platform will now raise and lower how we want it to do. Now to build the all-important pushy part that I keep talking about. We'll finally get into it, and it's always important to remember we're going to need a rod for this. This time I'm going to extend it out this way so that it doesn't go into the bed itself, so that when we activate it, it already just has to move forwards rather than moving it forwards and back. Not really important, but it is what it is. Decided to put just a flat line of blocks across it in the hope that this is going to act as a sort of a wedge piece that we're going to be able to shove, basically. Now let's not forget that all important rod that needs to go between the motor and the elevator piece, and then of course we've got to make this work. Now there was one thing here that I struggled to work out, and it was setting up key binds. As you can see here, we've kind of got a basic setup for our left hand, and I wanted to add just kind of 2 more in here so that I could move this rod forwards and backwards. But it doesn't matter where I looked, I didn't seem to be able to add an extra control or 2 in here, and I kind of just had a look everywhere. I could add a whole new thing, like you see I've added in this blue bit here, but I just wanted to add to a couple more keys on my left hand so that I can move it forwards and backwards. And I just spent quite a time in the options, and there was nothing that was really straightforward, and there's nothing really giving me too much help in order to get there. So in the end, I just switched it across and just put it on the right hand controls, which was a little bit kind of awkward because I like to use my right hand on the mouse to keep my camera where I want to do, but in the end we were able to do it. And yes, as you can see here, completely left the motor disconnected from anything and expected it to spin and move that push plate, but it didn't. So we obviously had to throw a quick block in and basically just connect the motor to the level that goes up and down. And at least that way, the motor will be solid. It won't try and spin anywhere, but it will in fact spin the rod, which will spin that push plate. As you can see, it works wonderfully. The rod isn't quite long enough, but that again is really easy to extend on this game. It's so simple, you just click on it and you can literally just drag it out and make it longer. I just put a block on the end. This way, there's no risk of me just kind of shooting that rod all the way out and to the end. So we put that block on the end, it just stops it. As you can see again, we're still too short. Not a problem. Enter the build mode. Gives us that little click and drag thing, which we can do. So we can extend the rod before we even delete the block. Just highlight it and drag it out a couple of bits. Then for me, I just click and delete the block and just put a new one in. And then that should be golden. The little trial test, we need to go see if we are actually tall enough to get onto the table. It'd be a massive waste otherwise. Excuse me, young fella. Here we go to the table, wind ourselves up. And you can see straight away we're not going to be tall enough, but how are we? We're sort of just 1 block under, which isn't too bad. So what I'll do is I'll take us back to the build mode and we'll extend those 2 rods up so we go 1 above the table. I think that'll be better for us to push the sandwich off of our little kind of platform onto the table, and then we can just get on with it. So we'll wind ourselves up. And as you can see, when you get underneath the chute, you get a little laser that tells you where it's targeting. And it looks kind of small, our little platform. We could have done with making it a little bit bigger. A little bit bumpy. But we get there. Maybe could have done with being a little bit wider. Put some sides on it, something like that. We're going to be extra cautious because we do have a little objective of not bumping the table. So we'll try and get it nice and close. Woo, that was close. And when we're happy, wind our motor forwards, pushes the sandwich onto the table. Mission completed. All right. I thoroughly enjoyed playing this level, and I'm definitely going to go check out the other 2 levels that are available to us. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to the community manager, James, at Filament Games, who reached out to me and gave me this opportunity. He's literally said, here, have a look at it, see what you think, make videos on it, do what you like with it. They've not said that I have to be nice. They've not said that I cannot be negative. They have just given me the build of this game as it is so far and just said, see what you think. So absolutely fantastic. And I want to thank my community because you have given me this opportunity. So I want to thank you. And I also want to thank Filament Games. I just want to say genuinely, guys, the game currently is still unavailable, but if you can find it on Steam, stick it on your wish list. It's a little bit more simple than main assembly, which, let's face it, is going to get compared to just because of the building system. But this works on a grid system that is so much more like scrap mechanic, easier to get your head around, easy to understand. Again, just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that has given me this opportunity, my community, Filament Games, everybody involved. I just want to say thanks, and I hope to see you guys next time in the next video. Take it easy. Bye for now. Bye, guys.